Welcome back to the Bookworm Woodmakers channel. 2024 is here. I've got a really good video for you. We're going to take something like this and turn it into this. And that's coming up on the Bookworm Woodmakers channel.
So here I'm taking the clock face and I am jointing the edges to square them up, and I'll also be jointing the back piece to make it nice and level and smooth, so when I put on the patterns I can easily cut them off. But I'm jointing the edges to kind of square them up to make it easier to cut off at the chop saw. Again, firewood at times is really wonky donk, so I'm trying to unwonky donk this. I wonder if unwonky donk is a word or not. Anywho, you see me just cutting off the edges here to square it up. And then I put the patterns on, as you can see right there, and I'm moving over and getting my scroll saw. Now with my scroll saw, it is kind of a challenge, but what I do is I cut near to the line but not on the line, so that way there the blade doesn't wander and gouge out the side of this clock. And I'm sanding up to the line to make it look absolutely perfect. From there, we're going to have to cut the hole for the clock, which I use a Forstner bit, and I just drill down to the height of the blade of the drill bit, of the Forstner bit, and then I drill a hole through there, so that way there you can pop the clock out with the inside of a pen. Here I'm showing where I've cut a 15-degree bevel on this wood. That way there you can actually read it when it's on a desk. But because I did that, I needed to create a base because the clock won't stand by itself. So here you see me on the bandsaw cutting the base out. And of course, let's move over and put on our hearing protection. Can't forget that. Hearing protection is very important when you woodwork. Don't forget it. And I'm going to be jointing the backside and the face, getting rid of all the bandsaw marks to the base here, so that way there it looks nice and purty. Now here I'm going to be lining up the pens. Now the one thing that I've got to say about this is when you go to drill your holes for the screws, when you go to take the Forstner bit to drill out the majority of the backside, use a larger Forstner bit, because I didn't, and it was just an absolute struggle to be able to take this tiny little screw and force it into that smaller hole inside the Forstner bit cut. So it's very important that you use a larger Forstner bit. Here I'm trying to line up the pens so that way they're vertical to each other, and that didn't happen. But you live and learn. Here we are drilling those holes out. The drill bit just did the size of the screws, and then I'm using the Forstner bit, and as you can see I'm just struggling trying to get that screw through that tiny little hole. Be careful with the Forstner bit because you can punch through the base. Don't ask me how I know that. And then you have to wind up getting another base. You got all that process behind it, but through the miracle of editing, you don't have to see that stuff. Now, once I have this all together, I'll give you a beauty shot with the clock on there. Here I'm tightening up the base because the pens are designed to flip up and down, not side to side. And all in all, it was relatively quick. I mean, I could have probably done all 4 of these in a day had I not had to video, and also some of the doggone mistakes that I made, such as using a small... Sorry about that. I forgot to shut my phone off. But here I am squaring up the edges. The pens are in no danger because I have a 1 inch gap between the pen and the edge. Just made it look really, really nice. And I'm now doing what is some people will call Shishubi bond, but I'm just doing a very light burn because I want to highlight the grain. I don't want to fry this thing like I've seen before and like I have done before with some of the projects that I had. Also, do this safe. I mean, as I was doing this, I kind of smelt a little bit of burnt hair off of my hands. Yeah, I can be an idiot at times. But anyways, the highlighting on the base was just absolutely beautiful. I am doing it on the faces of the clock. Now I had four clocks. Two were spalted. I did not burn those at all. I just burnt the two that were not spalted. And by the time I got done doing this, I just did not like the look. So I wound up actually sanding off camera the two clock faces that I've done this to because I just didn't like the look. Somehow the oak really just looked beautiful. I think I was using birch here for the two clock faces. And now I'm gluing the clock to the base. I'm using Titebond 3, which is my go-to glue on 99.9% of my projects. Always got a couple gallons sticking by, and I'm using a CA medium glue here. I'm putting 6 drops on, 2 on each side and 2 in the center, just so that way there the CA glue will hold it in place while the glue dries. The only thing I've got to say is the accelerator really smells, and in my humble opinion, I don't like the smell. So please use this in a well ventilated area because it was still reeking of this stuff a couple minutes afterwards, and I had to let this air dry out before I wound up using the polyurethane spray can. So that took a little bit of time. And here I am using a semi-gloss. I really like the wet look, and the semi-gloss, when it dried, did not maintain its wetness. I think I should have used a high gloss, but you live and learn. But it's really a super simple, easy project to do here. As you can see, it's not rocket science here. But it was a couple minutes for that to dry. And here again, I'm struggling with those pens, putting them in for the final time because I have got to cut the felt to put underneath here. The felt was needed to be able to prevent the base from scratching any surface that it was put on. And the sheet here is a self-stick. They used to cost $1.25. Now they're $2.44. There's other ways that you can cover the base. You can flox it. You can get your own felt with your own glue. I don't want to be bothered with that, so I'll just pay the extra money and get the sheets and just custom cut them around there. Do be careful with the X-Acto knife because sometimes it would grab a grain and just follow the grain of the pattern up the base. But other than that, it cuts it to the T. So once you peel off the backing, it'll fit without too much of a struggle. So there we go, easy separation there. And then let's just peel off the back and smack that puppy on and call that thing done. Now the clock that I'm using was a clock that I had chosen for my son. He's deep into the Knights of Columbus, and I just thought that this would be a very appropriate thing for him to put on his desk at work. I just absolutely love how this turned out. It is just simply gorgeous.
Well, it turned out, as you can see, absolutely beautiful. I'll get some closer shots of this a little bit later on, and if you stick to the end, I've got some exciting news here. Anywho, I made 4 of these, and it's actually from a book called 101 Gift Projects from Wood, and it's from James A. Jacobson, and this is actually on page 40. And super simple to make. I actually made this out of firewood. Bought a load of firewood, I don't know, eons ago. I can't remember exactly when. And it sat out in my yard, and we no longer had fireplace get-togethers anymore, or and then of course the city tightened its rein and you can't burn stuff and it's a pain in the butt. So I had to do something with the wood. Now, I found out when buying firewood though, you can get what is called slab wood, or you can get quarter sawn wood. I chose, for some ungodly reason, way before I started this channel, to get slab wood. And it dried out in my yard, and I took some of the choice pieces into my shed for them to further dry out, and the rest of the wood was donated to a union that's been on strike. They needed firewood to keep themselves warm, and hey, use mine, I'm not using it. So that's a picture, and it's called the desk clock, and this is the drawing right here that they're showing. And I had some spalted wood in the pile, saw that picture and said, beautiful. So I just made that design. I of course made a template out of a 1/2 inch or maybe 3/4 inch, I can't remember. Made a template of that clock design, so that way there I could just burn them out real easy in the future. The only thing was that tilting it back, when it was just sitting straight up and you were sitting at a desk, unless if it was elevated, you couldn't read the clock. So I cut a 5 degree off the bottom, so that way there I could possibly read it. That wasn't enough. I cut a 10 degree, that still wasn't enough. So I wound up cutting a 15 degree. And because these are chunky, they wouldn't stand on the desk by themselves. So maybe not make them as chunky if you just want them to stand alone. What I decided to do was take more of my firewood and just cut it off via the bandsaw, join it, and then making a base. And I have these pens that I acquired with the clock, and they're about 25 years old, these pens and these small little miniature clocks. I believe I got them from Wildwood Designs. The batteries, of course, were long gone. I had to Amazon those batteries in because Walmart and the big box stores don't carry that small of the battery anymore. So I got like 10 of them shipped to my house for like $5. Relatively inexpensive. Now, here's the thing though. The first one that I made, I put the pens in front of the clock. The second one I made, I put the pens behind the clock. So if you could see that, okay? And I actually prefer behind the clock here because it just looks nicer in my humble opinion. Let me know what you think about, should the pens be in the front or in the back of the clock, down in the comments. So as far as announcements are concerned, there is a podcast out there, and it's also on YouTube. It's called The New Cranky Workshop, and these guys are just absolutely hysterical. It's Lee Drummond from Busted Knuckle Woodworking and Jarrett from Inland Wood and Resin. And they get together and put out a podcast, but you can also see it on YouTube. Hysterical people. What they do is they actually highlight some of the smaller channels that people aren't seeing, and yours truly was highlighted on it, and it was really fantastic. Kind of a boost in the motivation to do more for my channel. Really, really wonderful people. That being said, I'm going to end this, get on to my next video production for you guys, and I'll give you a B-roll of what these clocks look like individually. Now, hindsight's 20/20. If I would have known that I was making a base, I would have matched the wood, so I tried to match it as best as I could, but it's firewood. All right? It happens. It doesn't mean that you actually have to have all your projects GQ perfect, same species of wood, same design. You know, that's the creativity of this. The other thing is as I was making this, a whole lot of things started coming into mind. Like I could do silhouette clocks with this, you know, get a coloring book and find a horse that's rearing up and shrink that down and cut that out and make that as the back side where the clock is in it, or a sun, a moon, a star, you know, square, whatever. There's all kinds of things that you can do just making this simple clock. So get the book, do this. Let me know if you're doing that project and if you got the book. And once you get this done, you're going to start to see, wow, I could do a lot more than just a simple quarter of the circle here. And it'd be interesting to see what people will send me. So, as always, stay safe, stay blessed. This is Jeff with the Bookworm Woodmakers channel.